Welcome everybody to Ask Cadence. My name is Pete Wright. I'm sitting around the table here with Scott Lissit. Hello, Scott.
Hello, Pete.
Hello, John Patton. Welcome back to the table.
Good afternoon, Pete.
It is good to have you both here, and we have another discussion on project management in tough times. We are in tough times. You hear the episode last week, and we're talking about the power of project management in a recession. This week, it's the what if show. What do you do if you are affected and your projects are affected by cuts in the organization, across the organization, and how do you handle various scenarios to keep your projects running or know what to do when they just can't? And I think, Scott, you were going to kick us off on how projects might be affected by organizational realities.
Yes, let me do that. What I have seen is that I have read about some panic reactions now during the recession, and those can directly affect projects. And there are three scenarios that I've seen. One is that you lose resources. And you have team members who are on the project who are affected by downsizing, affected by layoffs, and they get cut, and now you don't have as many team members on your project. A second one is that you're asked to accelerate your project schedule. Maybe you had a year to do the schedule initially. Now, because of concerns about revenues shrinking, now you've been given 8 months, and you're expected to do exactly the same thing in that shorter period of time. And then finally, the third one is you're asked to cut scope. So just really reduce the goals of the project, reduce the deliverables of the project to the point where you wonder whether it's even worth doing the project anymore. And so we'd like to talk about some alternatives that can be presented to management when these kinds of panic reactions are happening in the organization.
Now, it seems like when you are confronted with these sorts of issues that will impact your ability to deliver as a project manager and a team what you promised you would deliver, first you want to take a step back, right? Remember what you already know. John?
Yes. Scott used a very important word, and it was this word alternatives. You got to push back sometimes. You've got to go back to those executives and realize that executives love choices. So whatever you do, you're going to have to show the impact to the existing project on their decision, whether it's cutting resources or moving a date in, and then propose to them alternative choices, along with your recommendation, of course, but alternative choices. So for example, we talk about cost, schedule, performance all the time. If budget is cut, then your alternatives should reflect performance and schedule. If schedule is moved in, then you've got to show some alternatives in budget, increasing scope, decreasing scope, and the same sort of thing if scope is cut. That one's a little more difficult because we assume that we're doing things to benefit the operation or our customers in some way. So if scope is cut so very, very far, then we got to say, well, what are the implications in the operating environment? Is it worth doing this? And are there alternatives in schedule and cost to achieve the same scope?
Yeah, and these kinds of alternatives that you're talking about, John, they have to be proposed, and the project core team needs to get together and look at the impact of each one of these, and then propose alternatives that make sense. So if you've been asked to accelerate the schedule, can you cut out enough scope to then get something done meaningfully in the amount of time you have? Or is that not possible? Can you request an increase in budget to get the work done in 8 months? Well, that may or may not be practical now. But if you can't get either one of those,
you may end up delivering a rather anemic result.
You might, and then you might be faced with really the only option that would make sense for the company, which might be to put the project on hold.
Yeah, you're on to something there, Scott. When it's really tight, among the alternatives should be this alternative, should we put this project on hold? And you might well recommend that.
And when you do that, there are some activities that you can do so that when a future team then comes back to the project, maybe it's the same team, maybe it's a different team, they have the information that they need to pick up where you left off.
Yeah. How to put a project in mothballs.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Is it. So first of all is capturing current status with a final detailed status report on their project before it goes on hold. Another is to create a list of the open issues that we're working on in the project. Make sure that you documented all those that you've closed and how you closed them, and those that you have not had time to resolve, that you get a good description of the project, of the problem and the impact. Create a single archive where you store all this information and make sure that that people are going to be able to find it easily.
I have these visions of the Raiders of the Lost Ark warehouse.
Yes.
Yours is the glowing project deep in the back.
There.
Yeah. And you need to do this for each team member, so they can capture the work products that they have done individually.
Well, it sort of begs the question. I don't quite know how to put this, so tell me if I'm not making any sense. What about the idea of being able to pick up project elements that are process-based? I mean, 6 months go by, the organization changes, you're essentially starting over on a lot of these initiatives, aren't you?
You could, but let's remember our project portfolio. A well-run project portfolio has a list of projects which are active and a list of projects which are on hold awaiting resources. Now, when resources become available, one of the things we're going to do is evaluate the viability of the project which is currently on hold. Is it appropriate to start it now? Is it still viable for the marketplace or for the organization? And if so, we're going to activate it. Now, what you have archived as you were mothballing this project will be crucial to that reactivation. So this list of projects on hold should be tied to a folder on the server called Projects on Hold, and all the mothballed folders for each project ought to be there. And in particular, your project steering team, your executive committee, they've got to know where that resides.
Well, something else that strikes me about this option, John, is that if a project team goes to their sponsor and says, you've asked us to do just as much work with less people, or you've asked us to cut scope or accelerate schedule, and we just don't think we can do it, so we're going to recommend that we put the project on the shelf. What that might do is create a reaction on the part of the project sponsor that says, no, we can't mothball this project. It's too important to the company. So since you're now showing me a very thorough impact assessment of what happens if we do some of these things, and that it's not possible to continue the project that way, okay, now I'm going to have to reverse a decision and give you back some time on your schedule.
Scott, this is the hope and the fear of every project team. When we say, we can't do this, they'll say, no, we have to do it. Yeah. But also, let's remember, if you go to any executive with only one alternative, put this project on hold, they might also say, because they like choices, very good. And this Friday, you can pick up your final check in HR.
Yes.
So let's go
That's
back
right.
to alternatives. Give them alternatives for
That's right.
continuing, and among them, place the project on hold.
It's a matter, I think, of having the intestinal fortitude to make those gutsy recommendations. So, thank you, gents, both of you, for sitting down, having this discussion. This was a good one. And on behalf of Scott Lissit and John Patton, I'm Pete Wright. Thanks for listening to Ask Cadence.